Good afternoon, good morning, and good evening to wherever you are watching or listening from. My name is Jamie Robinson, and welcome to episode 266 of the Wakefield Trinity Heritage Podcast. Back today with a very different, unique interview for all our listeners and watchers, and I am super excited for this one as well on a personal level. But before we bring him on, let me introduce my co host, my dad, Lee Robinson. How are we doing, Dad?
Hello, and thank you for joining us again on the podcast for another monthly interview. This week, as Jamie says, we've got something a little bit different and one of our alternative interviews. He did not play for Trinity, and I don't think he ever played at Bellevue in his career. He did have a 10-year playing career in the game, but in recent years, he's been on the wrestling circuit in America and had 7 years with the WWE. So it's something a little bit different this week. From Liversidge to WrestleMania, this week we talked to Luke Menzies. Luke, thanks for joining us, mate.
Oh, Lee, Jamie, thanks for having me, fellas. It's nice to hear some familiar accents anyway. So all good.
We were just saying off air that you must do a number of interviews with North American podcasters and newspapers and whatever, and just have to dumb down your accent a bit. But you can talk as Yorkshire as you want with us, mate.
It's like a weight's been lifted. It's like a weight's been lifted.
Where are you actually based at the minute?
I'm in Orlando. Well, I'm
Oh,
actually just south of Orlando. It's a little city called St. Cloud. It's a bit quieter, a bit off the beaten path. Just how I like it. So away from the hustle and bustle.
good stuff. And I mean, we'll get to it later on. But I know you've been nursing a few injuries, neck injury, foot injury. How's that rehab going?
It's going all right. I'm towards the tail end now. So, like I say, I had a two-level cervical disc replacement, which were really straightforward, to be honest. Like, I thought that was going to be the like a bit of a bugbear, but it's been sweet. And then the foot's been the pain in the backside, as it were, because I had to have it's a weird injury. You like dislocate. It's like a midfoot dislocation, so they've got to pin it, and there's all the little joints in there. So it's been a bit of a task getting back up to speed, but we're nearly there now.
Was it?
Wasn't a list Frank, was it?
I was just going to say
Liz
that.
Frank, yeah, Liz Frank, yeah,
Got to,
yeah.
because me and my dad's a retired physio, and I'm a chartered physiotherapist. So you just beat me to it, Dad. If it Liz Frank.
It sounded familiar, didn't it?
Yeah,
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 they're buggers to get through as well.
yeah. It was weird when I had it done. I thought, oh, that's because I caught a fella and I stepped back and it felt like when you wring a dishcloth out, it
Yeah.
felt like my foot did that in my boot, and I'm like, oh, I don't feel good. Anyway, so I tried lifting the guy up and I'm like, I can't do this. It's not safe anymore, safe for me. So I just went, nah, we'll call it.
Luke, we're here for one reason. Obviously, we're going to talk about you and your career, but we're obviously Wakefield Trinity podcast, Wakefield Trinity Heritage podcast. If that you were born in Liversidge in a WF postcode, so every guest we've ever had on this podcast, we always ask them the same first question. So I'm going to ask you, and I'm interested to see what your answer is. What's the first thing that comes to mind when you hear the words Wakefield Trinity?
Wakefield Trinity. Oh, this is going to take me back for when I played, but I was always a fan of Michael Korkidas.
Love that. Love that.
So I just loved how he played. Obviously, look, no nonsense, just ran hard, could run through a brick wall. Yeah. So first thing, Michael Korkidas. Yeah, I always remember him.
We had McCorkey on the podcast a couple of years ago now, actually, and he was in Australia, and he was sat in his back garden with the sun rising at about 4 a.m. We had him on. We managed to get him on dead early, and yeah, still a fan favourite to this day. Do you ever play against him? Actually, thinking about it.
You know what? I might have played like an academy game when I was at Bradford. When I was at Bradford as a youngster, I think he was coming back from injury, and I think I might have had like one game against him. I vaguely remember it. He probably battered me all over at Park, like, but
I love that. And again, like I said, you were born and raised in a WF postcode in Liversidge, and tell us your upbringing from kind of late 80s into early 90s.
yeah, well, obviously in Liversidge, like typical working class family. My dad were a bouncer initially around Bradford. He ran a few clubs around Bradford. Then he ended up getting a job as a policeman. Don't know how he managed to wangle that one, but my mum she worked in a carpet factory in Edmondwike. My granddad was a business owner. He actually uh, owned the carpet factory that my mum worked in, and he came from now. Like so, just did his bits growing up, and yeah, I moved. So I moved about a bit. Obviously based in like in Liversidge, but I lived in Batley and Carlinghow, and that's where I met Keegan Hurst. Growing up, he lived in Wilton Estate, so we were 2 minutes away from each other. Um, yeah, just causing mischief up in Carlinghow and Wilton and egging windows and doing all the stuff that you do when you're a kid on from a council estate, really. So yeah.
And to let's talk rugby league, mate. Where did your first rugby league experience come from? Was it watching, playing in the backyard? Your dad?
Yeah, my dad always played rugby. He played for Odsal Sedgeburgh and then Berkshire.
Mhm.
And then as soon as I got to like 7 years old, they were like, right, come on, it's time to put your boots on. So I started playing for Batley Boys initially. Played for them for a good few years. And then when I was about, I think 13, 14, I moved to Driglington. And
Mhm.
that's when I got picked up by and I initially got picked up by Salford when Carl Allison was head coach because he's a big Drig guy. I think he still lives in Driglington, I think.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, and then I did a bit for the academy there, and then moved to Bradford, and obviously Bradford Bulls, like you were a struggle getting in first team there with superstars they had. So I took the switch to go to Batley Bulldogs, and then rest is history. I've had more clubs than Tiger Woods, mate. So
So what was your Bradford experience like? Obviously, even in the academy or reserve grade at that level, it must have been some place, was Bradford in early mid 2000s.
yeah, it were tough, and high expectations, and we used to because we were full time academy, but we didn't get paid full time. It was like part time to get your brains bashed in by first
Mhm.
team. I just remember we used to do these drills called chronullas. So first team would be training, and they do a kick on fifth and last, and we'd have to bring it out of our in goal. And I just remember Nobby stood behind them as they were kick chasing. He went, "Don't worry about these fellas. There's plenty more where they came from." About young lads having to cart ball out of our, of our 10 yard line, so 10 meter line. So yeah, we used to get smashed up a bit, but it was a good experience. It's all thing is with rugby league, it's all character building, right? It's kind of like knock us down to build you back up. It's a proper, it's a man's sport, right? And
Mhm.
these fellas over here in US don't have a clue. Like, don't have a clue about it, mate. It's funny. They don't have a clue.
Was this the Sam Burgess era at Bradford as well, or had he moved on?
Sam, yeah, Sam was just about to transition into the first team. It's
Right.
funny, Sam's from Liversidge as well
Mm.
initially. So
Yes,
I
yeah.
was obviously growing up with Sam playing in every Holland district with
Mhm.
Sam growing up, and he always played an age group above himself. So he was destined to be a
Mhm.
superstar. And I know all his brothers, Luke and um, Tom and George and stuff. So yeah, Sam were always a standout, and he went on to world domination.
He has, hasn't he? Yeah.
So,
We never heard anything but good things about battling. Was that your experience too at the Bulldogs?
I loved my time at Batley.
Mm.
Just the camaraderie from the lads, and yeah, it's just a good club. Like you get looked after, and it's everyone who plays for Batley. Like obviously they're not going there for the money; they're going
Yeah.
there for the love of the sport. And I had a fantastic time there, mate. It really shaped me as a young man. They had some old crusty veterans and stuff like that. And I always remember when I first went there, the coaches were Gary Thornton and Joe Berry.
Oh yes, Gary played for Trinity.
He did, yeah, yeah.
Mm.
And, so I had some good experience with them, and obviously, being a young lad, I was 17 when I made my debut for Batley. You're playing against men, and I remember my first actual proper game was against Widnes when they had signed Barry McDermott and Terry O'Connor in front row, and I was starting
Yeah.
prop. Me and Luke Stenchen, um, and yeah, that was a bit of a baptism of fire. Yeah, uh, yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. I've got you down as playing against Doncaster in your debut. It wasn't a league match. It was one of those
The
Northern Rail
first,
Cup games.
I think the Widnes game was like the first league game.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, funny.
I would say 17 years off the bench, and you didn't. You had a good couple of years there. 2006, 2007, and then promotion to OKR. That must have been something special.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're playing a friendly, and I think
Mm.
Justin Morgan, coach, took a liking to me, and I got opportunity to move to OKR, and obviously I was travelling over there with, Scott Manell, Ben Kane, a Wakey
Mm.
lad again.
Yeah.
Um, so that was Chris Chester as well,
Yeah. Chizzy.
uh, Chesney, yeah. So yeah, some good experience, but I think I was young and stuff, and I don't know, it was I think it was I could have done with another couple of years
Mm.
playing at Batley just to kind of cut my teeth a little bit. But again, it was an experience, and yeah, I look back upon those days fondly. Some good my Mondays.
Was
So
it? Yeah, yeah. Was it just a year at Rovers before you went to Oldham?
yeah, it was just a year because I kind of lost my head a bit towards back end of my time at OKR. lost my head, and I ended up just booking a lad's holiday to Kos. I mean, and I just naffed them off, and I just went on holiday to Kos. Like I don't know why. It's,
As you do.
as you do, you know what I mean, young and dumb. And I came back, and that's when I went on loan to Oldham, and again another good club. Like I can't say I've had any bad experiences at the clubs that I've been at. You know, the few that I've been at. Steve Deakin were coach there, and they had a few decent players there. You know, two Bobs.
Yes.
Who else were there? Danny Halliwell and Marcus Saint Hilaire.
Mm.
Yeah.
You know, they had a few talented players there. And it were a good do. It were a good do at Oldham.
It's interesting looking at your ages here, Luke, because like you say, making your first grade debut at 17 is super, especially in the front row. Then
Mm.
getting your early sign into a Super League team. How does that kind of affect a young brain, a young lad from Wakefield at 17, 18, suddenly playing, first grade rugby league when you might not have expected it?
Yeah, it's kind of a lot to take in because you're still finding your feet. You know, you're playing against men, and you're still growing up really as a lad.
Mm.
So you're trying to find yourself. You're obviously trying to find your spot in the team. You're trying to show your worth, but also you're trying to. It's a steep learning curve, especially going from, Batley to then trying to get up to speed with everything in Super League. You're playing with these Aussies like Benny Galea that came over, and a couple of
Mhm.
lads that had got massive experience in NRL, and it's a big step up.
Mm.
Uh, so it was like I always felt I was a little bit behind the eight ball. And looking back, I wish I'd have just worked a little bit harder, but it was one of those things, and I think it still stood me in good stead for the rest of my career.
Mm.
Just even outside of rugby, just like a character building uh, thing. Yeah.
Were you working part time at that point as well?
So at Batley, I were working part time in a gym. So there was a gym in Batley called Average to Athletes, and the owner of that was Eddie McGuinness, who used to be the strength and conditioning coach at Salford. And Eddie sadly passed away. He got hit by a car when I was young. But him and his wife Tracy, they kind of took me under their wing, and I was working in the gym while I playing for Batley. So I go work, and then I go to training at night and stuff.
Mm.
So it were decent, and obviously I've continued into like coaching and online coaching, and training people. I went into personal training a little bit. So yeah, it kind of stood me in good stead. It all kind of helped, kind of come together really.
And were you still close with your dad at this point? Were you keeping you close
Oh
to the
yeah,
ground? Yeah.
my dad's been probably my number one support. But what was it? My biggest fan and my harshest critic.
Yeah.
That still is to this day.
And have you got siblings?
I've got so I've got a younger sister. She's 35. Um, she lives just outside of like near Cleck,
Hmm.
Eton, and then
Okay.
my dad remarried, so I've got two brothers to my dad and my stepmom, Charlie and Harvey. They're 19 and 22 now, but they're not. They tried rugby and stuff, but they've kind of got their own ideas.
Hmm.
They want to do their own things. Um, Probably smart, not getting the brains bashed in for a living. So, but yeah. So younger sister and two younger brothers. Yeah,
And I know you didn't get as many probably Super League opportunities as you wanted, but that first game against Castleford, 15th of March 2008, obviously it's over, what's that, 18 years ago now, almost to the day. What do you remember
yeah.
about that? Only 19 again, making your Super League debut.
I remember, I remember the game. We were umming and ahhing whether or not it were going to get called off because it was really foggy, and obviously at Craven Park, you know, it seems like if it's cold, if it's wet, like they get the worst of the weather
Yeah.
in that
I
stadium.
know.
It's
Yeah.
freezing. And I just remember, oh, typical, right? I'm going to make my Super League debut, and it's going to get called off because of fog. But yeah, I just remember thinking, okay, well, once I get on, just get your first carry. I'll make your first couple of tackles, and you'll be sweet. And I just remember like the speed of the game. Obviously, I've been training and stuff and played in the academy and done bits and bats. Um, but you go there and it's like you realise the intensity of it,
Mm.
but just the speed of the game. Um, but yeah, I just remember, taking that first carry and the nerves kind of settled, and you just get yourself into the rhythm.
Was it ever a point in your mind where you thought, I really want to do this full time, or were you still happy doing other bits outside of rugby league?
No, it's a weird one. So I actually got really burnt out of rugby when I was playing for Dewsbury. Actually, I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. I think it was because I put myself under so much pressure, like trying to do it like for my dad,
Mm.
and I put myself under a lot of pressure. Always hypercritical. I used to kind of strangle the fun out of it. Do you know what I mean? So I did want to do it, but it got to the point where I just always put myself under too much pressure, and I kind of got burnt out of it. By the time I was what 22, 23.
Yeah.
But at that point, you kind of make a career out of it, and when you when they send you those things in the mail called bills, you you need to kind of carry on, playing and earning a living. So I carried on playing, and it kind of got a little bit better. But then um, obviously I'm jumping ahead now. We'll probably get there, but I moved to Salford, and then um, I got let go by Salford when I were on honeymoon.
Mhm.
I was in Cancun, and I'd toyed going into wrestling earlier, um, and I told the wrong people. I told the lads basically, and they were like, "Ah, what are you doing that for? That fake bollocks. You know what I mean? What are you doing?" And I kind of like went back in, within myself. And then when we getting let go from Salford, I saw a tweet from William Regal,
Mm.
and he were putting over like the coaching services of the lad that coached him, a guy called Matty Jones from Oldham, and he'd heard of me from playing for the Ruffians.
Of course,
So
yeah.
I emailed Matty Jones, and then he emailed me back. 2 days later, I flew back home. First wrestling practice. 6 months later, WWE tryout, and then within that, my visa got declined to come over. I re-signed for Toronto. I signed for Toronto Wolfpack,
Mm.
and all that, and then it ended up working out for the best anyway. So
Because obviously, within that period, you played at Oldham, you played in that playoff final. Actually, you beat Doncaster, went up, then went back to Dewsbury, Batley again, Hunslet, Swinton, York, Halifax, and then Salford in between all that. And like you say, more clubs than Tiger
Tiger
Woods.
Woods.
But
Yeah.
what bouncing around in that time, what's going through your head? I know you've mentioned the wrestling thing, which we'll touch on in a minute. But were you just thinking, oh, I'm just going to make a good dig at this at second level, and if I get a Super League shot, that's that.
Yeah, I just wanted to try and at least give it my all and try and make it. But it was weird. I always worked hard, and it's not as if I were a world beater or anything. I could do a job, but I just think it's just the way the cookie crumbles, really.
Mm.
Sometimes you get the break, some people don't. But when I was playing, and I always enjoy being around the lads,
Mm.
the camaraderie and stuff. So that's one of the things that probably kept me in it. Especially the clubs that I were in, I was lucky enough that we always had a really good core group of lads, and it was always fun. That was the main thing. As long as it was fun, I was okay playing.
Yeah.
When it could be a bit of a drag, I was like, if it's not fun,
It sounds so similar to when we spoke to Keegan Hurst last month. He had a lot of hard graft in those low grades, and he got one opportunity at Wakefield, and obviously had a great couple of years before coming back to Batley. But did you feel like sometimes, or you want? I mean, I guess the Salford was there, but you wanted that just extra opportunity, and you knew that you could make a go of it.
Yeah, that's all you're after. You just have to that little bit of an opening, really. And sometimes it comes from I hate to say it, but sometimes someone gets injured, or
Mm.
and a spot opens up. Um, and obviously at that time in Salford, they were like Marwan Kukash was there, and it was a bit like it was like a bit of a circus at times, and I think they'd spent a lot of money bringing these players in, so they were almost obviously obligated to play those lads, and it was hard, kind of, you know, pushing your nose through. Um, but some lads did it. I mean, guys like Josh Griffin, who I'm still a Wakey lad, well, not a Wakey lad, but played for Wake. He's from
Mm.
like down south, but he's a big friend of mine. Still talks to him. He comes over here and stays with me in Orlando and stuff. And he managed to, push his way through, and he's had a great career. But it's just sometimes the opportunities, show themselves up, and sometimes they don't. It's just the way it is.
Did I hear you right say they released you when you were on honeymoon?
Yeah. So I remember when bloody hell, Tim Sheen took over
Yeah.
coach, and he pulled me into office like midway through season, and I remember him saying to me, he wasn't midway, we're like 3/4 way through season, and he pulled me in, and it'd be like a review. He said, "You do it." He said, "If I had 17 of you," he said, "I'd be spot on." I'm thinking, well, you can play me then.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then yeah, the season ended. Got married, went on honeymoon, and then yeah, well, like, yeah, we're not gonna renew your contract type thing. So I was like, oh shit. And then I went out on a whim. I'm like, backs against the wall. I've always wanted to do this thing. I've kept it to myself for a long time. Even my wife didn't know I was a wrestling fan, and I've been with her. Me and my wife have been together, nearly 18 years now. So she knew me as a rugby player. She married a rugby player, and then I started, saying, "Oh, I'm going to do this thing," and she thought we're going having like an early midlife crisis. He's like, "You're going around to this warehouse in Oldham, just
On the Toronto roster. What was that story? How did that come
so,
about?
so what happened was it was around we tried, if I remember correctly, because a lot were going on. It was a bit of a tumultuous time, but so I'd started wrestling. I'd started practicing and going to wrestling training and what have you. But obviously, I needed some brass, and I was like, I could play again. And then I saw Brian Noble at the gym because he trained at MP Fit in Bristol where I trained.
Mhm.
And he said, "Are you still playing?" I said, "Not at the minute, no." He said, "Well, we've got this opportunity that might, like come about and stuff." And it was Toronto. They trained at Brig House, and it
Oh,
were
did they?
like, yeah, yeah, they trained at like a Brig House there, and we used MP Fit as our gym. That's where Toronto we do his weights and stuff, and that was a really good experience. The lads that we had there were awesome, and we had a good team, and it's a shame that obviously the fella I forget his name now, but he was in
Perez, was it Perez?
it was Eric Perez, but then there was a guy above him. He
Yeah.
was the main man, and he was doing something a bit shady with the investment side of
Yeah,
things.
yeah, yeah.
So then that got shut down. But what happened was I'd started with Toronto. We were going through pre-season, and then I got the Iggy that I was going to go for this the WWE tryout. So I kept it secret. I didn't tell anyone, and I went to this tryout in Glasgow. And I remember I training the Monday or the Tuesday after the tryout, and it had got into the paper that I'd
Oh,
got this
wow.
tryout. So I went, and Paul Rowley, who was coach at minute, he was like, What's this?" You know what I mean? And so I was like, "Oh yeah, yeah, I've got this tryout and stuff." And I spoke to him, and they offered me a contract like on that weekend in WWE. They said, "We want you."
Wow, wow.
So then I had to tell Rolls, and luckily they were like, "We're not going to stand in your way. Like it's a great opportunity." So they just let me out my contract,
Well,
and then I was supposed to report to Performance Center 2017 in like July, but I had issues with my visa. So I'd sold my house ready to go. I'd stopped
Oh,
playing rugby ready to go. And then my visa got canned. So then I had to go work on the independent scene for 8 months, wrestling around like, working men's clubs. And I wrestled a bit in Europe and stuff. But I said, just so I could send it into the US government, I said, I'll only work on your shows if I can be on the poster as proof. So I did all that, and then I sent it back in, and I ended up going back for my second lot of medicals over back here to Orlando. And I was coming back to fly back home, and I got the email saying that my visa had been approved this time. So I could have dropped to my knees, like, "Ah,
mm.
thank you." And then I went back home, got us affairs in order. So me and my wife, she was pregnant at the time with my daughter, and so we ended up moving in with my granddad, just like a bit of a stopgap. And we had my daughter. She was 8 months old when we moved over to the States.
well,
Um, yeah. So it was funny because it was my obviously the grandparents' first grandchild. So it's like, "Hi, this is your first grandchild, but see ya, we're off to
Off now.
off to America." So yeah, I don't think I made anyone happy.
Jamie's the wrestling and WWE guru. So before I hand it on to him, just as a novice, what was your tryout like in Glasgow? What did you have to do? What was it about? Who was there?
So it was over like I think it was over like 2.5 days, and it was just like loads of. So basically, Jamie will know this. When NXT UK
Mm.
started, it was like the talent scouting thing for NXT UK, and it was all talent that were actually wrestlers on the scene. And at that point, I'd not had a match yet because this was before my visa got declined, right? So I was just training. So I was the only non-wrestler there. So we're doing all sorts of drills, running the ropes, doing all this, and we had to cut a promo. So I remember going up to this room in the what's it called now? The arena in Glasgow, SEC, whatever it
Yeah,
is. I
yeah,
can't
yeah.
remember. And there's a room, and I walked in. There's William Regal, there's a couple of other coaches and a camera, and you have 60 seconds, and they just say, right, go. And you got to cut a promo in front of the camera. And I ended up talking about my rugby career and stuff, and I managed to do a decent job. And I was coming up in the elevator the next morning to go back for the second day of the tryout, and I was in there with a coach called Norman Smiley,
Hmm.
and he said, just word to the wise. He said, if you do well today, I think you've got a job. I went, oh, charming. So yeah, but you kind of put the fear in me a little bit there. And then that next day, I saw Regal talking to Triple H like way back in the arena, and then he starts walking over, and I'm like, all right, this is weird. And he says, he's walking towards me. He said he's walking towards me. And he comes over, he shakes my hand. What's your name? He obviously knew my name because he spoke about me. I said, "Oh, Luke, pleasure to meet you." Da, da, da. Just swap pleasantries, and then one of the lads, like the talent recruitment guy called Canyon Seaman, came over, and he was like, "Look, we want you." He said, "How easy is it to get out of rugby contracts?" And I said, "I'll show you." Yeah, then the rest is pretty much. Well, I remember having to go home and tell my wife. I said, I think we're going to America." So yeah,
Unbelievable. Where does your your wrestling love come from? Because obviously, again, our generation, you're only a couple of years older than me, is
yeah.
the late 80s and early 90s WWF, WWE was massive in the UK. When it was it from that era that you used to watch it?
So not really. So my initial introduction to wrestling came from watching the old reruns of the British World of Sport with my nan. My nan was a big. My nan originally was from like Huddersfield, and Huddersfield, Halifax. So she was a Big Daddy fan,
Big Daddy.
and she would always do the easy chants, and we used to watch the reruns of that. And then I think the first actual thing I found out about American wrestling, I got a game for PS1
Mm.
or Mega Drive. I can't remember, but I got a video game, and then I started switching channels, and we got Sky, and I'm watching through channels, and then this is this bald-headed fella drinking beer and telling people to F off. So I'm like, oh, this is awesome. So it was really like watching Stone Cold that really made me want to be a wrestler.
Mm.
And then from there, like my passion just grew. And then when I got into the business, I started watching more of it. And like my favorite people to watch are like Fit Finlay and people like that who are just people don't know his wrestling career before the WWE.
Mm.
Like it was massive in the Europe, massive in the UK. He was one of the best of all time. So I really like watching that old stuff. To be honest with you, I'm not really I'm a fan, but I take more joy out of watching the older stuff. To be honest.
Exactly, yeah. And I don't know if there's such thing as true fans and casual fans and hardcore fans, but a lot of, I mean, the casuals might look at it and say the F word, that it's fake and predetermined and all this stuff. But I've always used the term, it's like athletic theatre. It's a performance, it's entertainment. You go and watch. There might be a predetermined result, there might not be. You never know. But I think watching it from an entertainment perspective, I always used to think nobody watches Game of Thrones and think dragons aren't real. You
Yeah.
just watch it and enjoy it. And Grey's Anatomy, you all know that they're not surgeons, but everyone always hammers wrestling for, oh, it's not real. Like, yeah, we know. Like, we know it's not, but we watch it because we enjoy it. Did you have that same mindset?
I mean, yeah, I'd try when we're younger and that you try and defend it, don't you? Because it's something that
Mm.
you like. It's like, nah, it's not fake, and you know that it's the outcomes are predetermined and stuff. But like you said, I always like it. It's like Coronation Street with muscles.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just drama. It's drama, and rather than bidding Rover's return and stuff, we settle our differences in the ring. That's all. We could tell the stories in the ring. But I remember when some of the lads found out that I was wrestling again, I got the living, whatever taken out of me, and text here and there, people like turning the nose up at it. But then I've said it before, and I'm going to say it again, that then some of the same lads that were doing that were like, "Oh, when you come over, will you get some tickets?"
Yeah, I bet. Yeah.
So, not that I want to rub it in anyone's nose, but it was always a nice little, up yours, really. You know what I mean? Sometimes.
When did the cog turn in your mind? You obviously went for this training with Marty Jones out and you're on the UK scene very briefly. But when did you think I might actually be able to make this a proper go here? Because I know WWE specifically are a company that likes someone with an athletic background, and obviously you're a big dude anyway, so it's not like you were building up from a slight frame. Do you feel as though that helped you and put that in?
Yeah, and I think the thing what attracted WWE to me was because they never had a professional rugby league player before, and they
Mm.
were always looking to like diversify from like athletic backgrounds or whether it be like cultural backgrounds and stuff like that. They never had like a professional rugby league player. So that definitely helped. But as far as like the light bulb going off about me thinking, well, maybe I could do this, Marty, all the things it was asking me to do that a beginner shouldn't be able to do, I could do. Like the first time I took a bump,
Mm.
like I remember watching the old Tough Enough, and I was mad into it. All the intricacies of how they did stuff and everything. And here's a funny story for you. So in Batley, we used to have there was an so I used to go to Batley Boys High School, and across the road there was an old people's home, and we found like two or three old mattresses, probably covered in piss or whatever, like whatever. But we put a bit of tarp up, we put a bit of tarp over them, and me, Keegan, a few others, we used to go over and just you know play with a few chests of drawers, and they were turnbuckles, and we'd throw people about in there, and we'd play wrestling. So it just became part of like what we did, and it was just that going back to Marty, it was just I think I just had a bit of a what's the word, a bit of a just a knack for it, just a natural knack for it.
Mm.
Mhm.
And again, not to, I don't want to pull back the curtain too much because I know it's almost like a magician in his secrets. But you learn how to fall, don't you? And you learn how to break you like you say they call it a bump in wrestling, but in judo it's how to fall into it in a certain way and communicate in the ring to know what's going on. Was that easy picking up for you?
Um, So learning the mechanics was easier for me because obviously coming from an athletic background, if you showed me once, I could kind of, having decent body control and stuff, I could do it. But the thing that I didn't expect was how hard it was on your body.
Mm.
Like people think that it's a wrestling ring, it's like a mattress. It's not. It's wood on steel, which has a little bit of bounce, which stops you from killing yourself, and like probably about that much foam, and then you've got your mat over there, so you're falling on wood and you're falling on steel, really. So that's why they tell you how to break your fall.
Mm.
But then as far as like talking to each other in a ring, that comes with experience and working with people better than you. So you learn that as you go. But that's an art in itself. Like it's less of an art now calling it. I mean, because everything's so micromanaged now in the business. Like the rehearse and everything's like it's like a dance. Bump 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 bump. You turn a quarter, turn to the left, and then da, da. But it's best when it doesn't look like a dance, when
Mm.
it's a little rugged and you can talk to each other and stuff and stay close. That's the main thing. But again, it's like any skill. It takes time to learn that.
What was the gap between having your first ever match on the independent scene in the UK to then being in the performance center in WWE?
So my first match on the independent scene was on my dad's birthday, 29th of August, 2017.
Hmm.
And then I was in the performance center the July of 2018. So I don't know, what was that, 6 months or so?
Yeah, that's incredible.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
six,
mean,
7 months.
were you pinching yourself?
Yeah, it was like to be honest, I didn't have time to think about it because it's like, okay, up sticks, move. As soon as you get there, they put us in a hotel in downtown Orlando until we could find a place to live, find an apartment. Then you report to the PC, and when you start training, you're there every day for hours. Then when you get to the back end of the week, they have these things called coconut shows, which is for the developmental talent to go run shows around Florida. So you've got to go there, you've got to build the ring, you got to set chairs up, you watch all the matches, you got to tear down, you drive back home. So that's when you just get on the hamster wheel then,
Hmm.
and you're just learning. It's just a huge learning curve. So you don't really have time to kind of sit back and think, this is great. You're just doing it.
Hmm. Did they provide you with like a living space and a car, for example, or did that come out of your contract?
No, well, no, no, really came out your contract. Nothing came out of your contract really. All it was you get your base salary, which was I took a pay cut to go for the opportunity,
Right.
and then Um, so the only thing that they did do was they put us up in that hotel in downtown until we could find a place to live. But then as soon as you find a place to live, you're kind of on your own then, and then you have to find out getting a car. Luckily, when I sold my house, I had a bit of cash, like spare cash free, so I bought ourselves a car. It was a lemon, so that blew up after like a week, which was a nightmare. But yeah, you just kind of find your way. They help you get set up with a bank account and things like that.
Mm.
Um, but no, as far as like cars and stuff, that's on you. Driving license a little bit, like they tell you where to go to take your test and stuff. And taking your test over in America, in Florida, it's so easy. It's unbelievable. That's why all drivers are so bad over here.
And did you, are you when you read old stories of old wrestlers back in the day, you were on the road a lot. Were you on the road a lot? And if you were, what were your wife doing back in Florida? Because obviously she just flown over there as well on her own,
Yeah, well,
or
so
pregnant or had a little one.
yeah, so it was hard for her. It was a big, although it was a big adjustment for both of us. I was busy, so it was like I wasn't ruminating about moving over or not seeing people. Whereas my wife, she was stuck at home with my daughter.
Yeah.
It was hard for her. But I was home pretty much every night,
Hmm.
But then when I got onto the main roster, when I got to SmackDown, we were on the road like 4 days a week, like 3, 4 days a week. So you'd fly into a town Thursday night, Thursday night, yeah, you'd have SmackDown on Friday, then you'd drive to the for like 2, 3, 4 hours to the next town, do a house show again on the Sunday, and then either you fly home like the Monday morning, or they'd fly you to Raw if you had to do Raw. So you just be again, you're on that hamster wheel, you're just
Yeah.
doing it. Yeah.
Did you have a mentor in these early stages? Obviously, you knew your wrestling, you knew your etiquette, but you didn't know WWE etiquette. Did you have somebody sort of guide you through? And
Yeah, so I'd always had. So it's funny, like, and Jamie will know this gentleman, but Pete Dunne, he's like 7 years younger than me, 6 years younger than me, but he'd been wrestling since he was 12, so he always helped me out. And then there's a couple of guys. There's a guy called Johnny Moss who's from Cumbria, he's from Egremont, and he's a coach for the WWE, and he's a very very good friend of mine, and he was a mentor and helped me through. Guys like William Regal, Terry Taylor, Fit Finlay, Robbie Brookside,
Mm.
who's like coaches all the young guys. There was a few. There's like a British contingent that look after their own. Do you know what I mean? There's a couple of Americans going there, but you know what it's like. You go over there and you get drawn to your own. So we have our little clique. You
What's
know,
Regal like?
he's awesome. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's spot on. It's funny. Some stories. I mean, me and Pete shared car rides with him when we were on SmackDown, and spending a couple of hours in the car with him, it's a laugh from the minute you put your foot down. Yeah, he's a good fella. Yeah.
And do you meet the big stars? Obviously, the names we know: Vince McMahon, Triple H, Stephanie McMahon. Do you meet all these people along the way?
Yeah, I mean, when I got called up to SmackDown, like Vince was still running SmackDown, so I had a couple of meetings with Vince. Obviously, Shawn Michaels was running NXT. I met Triple H, Undertaker. Um, I've not really got starstruck as much, but obviously, I met Austin once, like Stone Cold once, and that was at WrestleMania when I wrestled at my first WrestleMania, and he was wrestling Kevin Owens.
Mm.
And I just remember walking up behind him. I don't know why, but I slapped him on back at arm, and I thought it was a bit too hard. Like, and he turned around and he didn't know me from Adam, but I just said, "Look, I just want to introduce myself. I'm Luke, and just nice to meet you." And that was the only time where I was like, "Oh shit, that was Stone Cold Steve Austin." Other than that, I've not been really, starstruck or anything by anyone because they're just normal people at the end of the day. We all wrestle other men in our underwear. So it's not really, not really that.
And
That's
as a
it.
Raw wrestling, obviously Jamie's the man. But I didn't have many heroes. I love Stone Cold when I watched it with Jamie, but my hero was Mick Foley, Mankind. Have you come across Mick Foley?
I met him. I think I met him twice. He came to the PC when I first got there a couple of times just to show his face. Um, Never really spoke to him in depth. But it was cordial. It was nice. It was friendly. Yeah, who else? John Cena used to come down quite often.
Yeah.
It's like, hold court a little bit and give advice and stuff. But all that stuff about holding court and it's all rah-rah. It's a bit, it's a bit American for my liking. I just like to
Yeah.
stay under the radar and do my work. Do you know what I mean? I'm not into this. Yeah, woo, I don't. It's not my cup of tea.
As Jamie mentioned as well, I've been a physio. I'm retired now, all done and dusted. But I had a 40 years in the rugby league game, and you get some injuries in rugby league. But
Oh,
what I've seen on television, by golly, you get some injuries in wrestling. And we're going to go on to yours a bit later on. But there was I remember seeing Triple H rupture his quad many, many years ago, and they did a full documentary on his treatment and his rehab. And I sat back and thought, wow, this is something I've never seen before, even in my experience. So the injuries are big over there, but they're looked after quite well, aren't they?
Yeah, they've got the medical team and stuff, and because the talent's their massive commodity. That's why
Mm.
they sell merch, they sell out arenas and stuff. So number one priority is the health of the talent, really. You know, obviously, if you get hurt, they pay for everything, and their big partners is like the Andrews Sports Medicine thing in Birmingham, Alabama. So that's where they go to the orthopedic center and have all the
Mhm.
surgery done there. But yeah, they look after you. They've got a big medical facility. Excuse me, in the performance center, and you just get looked after, whatever you need. Yeah.
Talk to us about the transition from Luke Menzies to Ridge Holland. How do you come up with the stage name, with the character name?
So what they do, they just say, listen, we need you to come up with a name because like everything, like to own the rights to everything. So they say, can you come up with 20 names? I'm like, all right. So I'm literally writing anything down, right? But whatever, whatever. And then I submitted the list. And then one of the head writers, or the head writer at the time, Joe Castro, came to me and he said, so Ridge was like either the first name or the last name of a different name, and Holland was the same of another name. And they just happened to put those two together. And he came to me, he said, Triple H really likes this, and I hate it. And I went, I don't really like it. Because I wanted to be somewhat like a little bit more British, like Charlie or Tommy or, you know, something like that. Or like, I always want, like, the first name that I put out was like Archie Malice. You know, somewhat a bit like a bit of a bad guy, you know, Malice by name, Malice by nature, that kind
Yeah.
of stuff. But he said it was a bit too like Marvel, a bit too superhero-y. I'm like, well,
Mm.
that's stick with it. And then he came back to me again a second time about a week later. He says, listen, Triple H really likes this. I'm like, okay, I guess I'm Ridge Holland then.
End of story.
Yeah.
Um, and then as quick as you were from, training to NXT, suddenly you were on TV as well. You get trained to be in a ring, but do you get trained to be on TV and face the hard camera and how to perform to a crowd as well?
Everything that you can imagine from a possibility standpoint, you get coached on. So you get coached where the cameras are, you get coached about time cues and break spots and when you're coming back from break and obviously things like that. Because in the ring and stuff, like the refs are mic'd up and
Mm.
they've got earpieces in, so the refs are talking to you the whole time. You're talking to your opponent. The refs are giving you time cues. So it's almost like spinning plates. So like you've got to think about, okay, right, we've got this match. I'm trying to one not kill my opponent, so I've got one plate spinning there. Then the refs giving you time cues. So you've got to make sure you hit the time spots. That's another plate spinning there. You know, then you've got to think about, okay, where's the cameras? So you've got two or three floor cams, then a hard cam. So depending on what move you do, you need to position yourself in the so they can shoot you. That's another play going. And then all that being said, you might only have a 4 minute segment. So then you've got to get all your stuff, you know what I mean? You got to get the job done that the office wants doing in 4 minutes. So it's yeah, it's a bit of a baptism by fire, but you get they put the work into you by telling you what to do and stuff. And I think that's why it gets so micromanaged now because there's so many moving parts and they just don't want anything to go too far awry.
Mm. Sounds mentally exhausting.
It's stressful. It's stressful, but it's fun. You know what I mean? You just getting in the ring and stuff. Like the wrestling is that's the fun bit. All the other extracurricular stuff, the travel and stuff, that's not so much fun. Like having 2 hours kipping or driving 12 hours back from New Orleans to Florida because you can't be asked getting on a plane again. You know, that's kind of like the stuff that I would say you get paid for. Wrestling's the fun bit, you know.
Yeah. And then it's easy to forget as well, but you were there during COVID, and again, professional wrestling in general, was one of the very few things that properly shut down. But that must have affected you and your life quite a bit.
Yeah, I mean it shut down. I can't remember exactly the time frame when it did shut down, but we had to do like shows like TV shows in empty arenas where the actual the extra talent that weren't working, that weren't wrestling on the show would be the crowd.
Yeah.
So it's hard because a lot of what we do, you get up, you get amped up and stuff because of the reaction from the crowd, and it's a little bit forced when you've got your buddies there, cheering, but you're still on TV. Even that they had that WrestleMania that was in the performance center, in front of no one.
Mm.
It's hard because so much of what we do is governed by the people that come and watch, about the reactions and stuff. They really do make the show.
Mm.
A good crowd can make a like if you have a subpar match, but the crowd's into it, that match then it's not a subpar match anymore. Do you know what I mean? They
Yeah.
can really make or break a match or even a show.
Yeah. And during that time as well, I've seen the footage. I was watching at the time. You had an accident outside of the ring. Actually, I think you were trying to. Did you catch someone? I think you caught Oni Larkin or Danny Birch or someone.
Only. Yeah, it was only. Yeah.
Ankle dislocation, left leg fracture, patella dislocation, and patella tendon rupture on both legs.
Yeah.
That is, I mean, you've had some rugby league injuries, but you'll be. That's like a car accident. That's unbelievable.
Yeah, well, I remember I was laid on the floor after it happened, and the trainers came, and then there was like two or three trainers, and like a couple of trainers were going, it's his left leg. Other one was going, oh no, it's his right leg, and I'm there, I'm going, he's both, both. So then they splintered me up and took me off to hospital. And when I got to hospital, they thought I'd been in a car crash,
Hmm.
and then obviously they operated on me and stuff, and um, yeah, that was not fun.
And
Been in a wheelchair and stuff, not the best.
and again, it's called an accident for a reason. But was it just the angle you caught him, or was it how you landed, or?
So he was going to come for a dive, and I was supposed to catch him and give him a suplex on the outside. But I was talking to the refs as to make it not look like I was looking at him. So obviously, like I'm waiting for him. And my left foot was turned outwards. And as I turned and stepped, my left foot stayed put, and he jumped and he landed high on me. So I didn't have anywhere to go, so I just crumpled, and the left leg fractured first, which caused mine and his weight to go through my right leg, which caused my knee to turn in, which caused the patella to dislocate, which caused the patella tendon to rupture. Yeah,
Jesus
so
Christ. So
mm,
what was that better part of a year there in
yeah,
rehab?
that took me 10 months to recover from. Yeah, 10 months. Yeah,
How does that affect you? Because we've had a lot of rugby league players on here talk about mental health problems when they're not playing and in the physio room. But when you've up sticks and moved your life over, and just as you're starting to get traction, you blow out both your knees. How does that feel?
it was bad because I was just about to get a pretty big push, like it had been the biggest opportunity in my career, and. That happened, and it was COVID time as well. And what happened was during COVID, they were laying people off. So I'm
Mm.
here, I'm out for 10 months. I'm thinking I'm going to get canned here, you know. So yeah, it was rough. It was rough, and I couldn't even go to the PC and have like proper rehab. I had to have someone come to my house from this independent hospital because obviously the COVID restrictions and things like that.
Mm.
So that I reckon I'd have been back a bit sooner if I'd have been able to go to the performance center and have rehab on the daily. I think it
Yeah.
was like times a week. I had to get a bed and sleep downstairs in my living room and stuff. And um, but yeah, it was rough. And you're always thinking like, okay, the first thing you think is, okay, how can I get back as fast as I can? And then you just got to go through the process. It's just take it day by day because when you it's hard going to the toilet and trying to have a number two with two straight legs.
Yeah.
That's rough. you know.
And you mentioned obviously you'd met Triple H. He liked the fact you had a rugby background. He basically chose your name. Did you feel like you always had him on your side and the management on your side, even though you're injured?
Yeah, I thought I were always in good stead with the company. They always, I remember people saying, big things, big things, big things. But then again, it's just one of those things where like shit happens, like, yeah, the injuries and stuff. And then what you've got to look at is like the company's investing in you. At some point, they're going to want a return on their investment. And if they're not going to get that, it's business at the end of the day.
Mm.
So sometimes the cookie just crumbles that way. But it, it was like, okay, I got over that. And then I never really got going again because I ended up getting hurt, freak accidents. It's just crazy. Like I could never get a foothold, as it were.
Mm.
So
And then suddenly, mate, November 2021, you get the call that you're drafted to SmackDown. Absolutely incredible. Again, for anybody who doesn't really know wrestling, it's like kind of going from the academy to first team very quickly, after a big injury as well. Millions of fans watching around the world at home, worldwide exposure, wrestling on pay-per-views and PLEs. When does that first conversation come where you're going to be on the main roster and on the road?
I never had a real conversation. I had an inkling that I might be getting called up just because of how things are going in NXT. Like I wasn't in any long-term programs. It was either two things. It was either, okay, I'm going to get fired or I'm getting called up.
Mm.
And then I'd heard that my name had been mentioned by the top brass and stuff. So I'm thinking, okay, something's in the works. And then I was sat at home one night and I was eating my tea, watching SmackDown, and they had the draft. Obviously, you know the draft where they pick talent to go. And the next draft for SmackDown is Ridge Holland, and I've gone, what? So I found out by watching the show.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah.
So I mean, that is the rugby league equivalent of being sat at home and then seeing on TV that you're playing in the Challenge Cup final one weekend, isn't it, without even knowing. It's just
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
that's unbelievable. So then, did you quickly have that confirmed? Did anybody ring you saying we need you next week on
I
wherever?
think, yeah, I think obviously talent relations gets in touch and they say, look, we're going to need you for this date, and then we have like an app where you get all your bookings and stuff. Like you need to hear all your flights
Ah,
and
right.
stuff, but you go through and then you'd see you getting called up, and you start making the transition.
Did you
Um,
feel ready?
no, no, it was the same again. It was the same that happened with rugby. I could have done with another good year down in NXT. But it's one of those things. Yeah, I'm not going to say, actually, fellas, I don't want to come up. I don't want to earn that money. I'm happy doing this. So it was like, okay, I'll try and make a go of it. But in retrospect, yeah, I would have liked to have another 12 months or so back down in NXT, especially after the injury, because it kind of put me back a little bit.
Hmm. The contracts change when you go to the main roster. Do you get a brand new spanking Oh, you
Yeah,
do,
you
yeah.
get yeah, you get a brand new deal. Yeah, it's like, imagine if you went from academy or jumping from scholarship to first team.
Wow.
You sign it's a brand new deal. Yeah.
Wow, brilliant. And quite quickly, you got paired with Sheamus. And anybody who doesn't know Sheamus is big Irish wrestler. He's been going for, God, 20, 30, 25 years now. Been on the main
Yeah.
roster for about a decade by that point. I bet you were buzzing when you got told you were going to be paired with him.
Yeah, it would a good opportunity, but I would have just done things a bit differently because it was weird. Like they had me saying like, how old was I when I got called up? What, 30, 33? So they had me like cutting promos and saying I was a big fan of Sheamus. I used to watch him in the pub and I'm like, if I'd have put wrestling on in the pub when I'm from, I'd have got glassed. You know? So I'm like, I just wish that they'd have done it. They made me look like I was a bit of a simp for Sheamus a little bit. So what I would have done is I would have said, have a couple of matches, get a couple of wins, and then Sheamus is watching backstage on a monitor, and he comes up to me, he's like, hey, I like your style, and then he takes me under his wing. So I'm more of an equal, you
Yeah.
know. But I was always like young boy, even
Mm.
though I was like 33-year-old, you know. So, but it's one of those things you got to take those opportunities when they come and see what happens.
When you're paired with people on screen, so again, people who don't know wrestling, if you're in a tag team or if you're in a faction or a stable, are you kind of encouraged to spend a lot more time with them, on the road and not off screen as well?
Yeah, obviously I travelled with Sheamus quite a lot. It was me initially before Pete Dunne got called up and joined the group. It was me, Sheamus, and Drew McIntyre travelling. We just travel from show to show, which was a good sleepy Drew. Drew would always fall asleep. It'd be me and Seamus would always try and make me watch old episodes of Father Ted in the car. I'm like, mate, no.
Again, I bet you were pinching yourself because again, two former WWE champions who are still flying at the minute, aren't they? They're probably going to probably be on WrestleMania in a couple of weeks. Just what are you thinking at this point?
It's just you're just trying to it's like starting again. So imagine like you go into a rugby academy, and you're kind of watching your p's and your q's, and watching your manners, and trying to be seen but not heard. It's that type of thing, showing respect and stuff, and just doing as you're told. But then obviously you get in the car and you start having a laugh with the lads and stuff, and they just at the end of the day, they're both lads that have come from like council estate in Air Scotland, the council estate in wherever Seamus is from, where dreams are the same that I had, and they just happen to end up in the same place. So you have a lot more in common with these people than what you think. They're just normal fellas at the end of the day that like a beer after a show, and like to talk a bit of shit when you're on the road.
And then, like you say, you're on the road then, mate. So a good couple of months down the line, and you're getting put in storylines. You're on TV. You're on, big events outside. We talked about accidents inside and outside the ring. A big talking point in your career has been the accident that happened with Big E when he broke his neck involved in a match with was you and Sheamus? Was it a tag match or was it a singles match? I can't
I think I
remember.
think it, I think it was me and Seamus, yeah, but I think Butch was on the outside. I think Pete was on the outside. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
was it a six man or a, no, I think it was a tag match.
Yeah. So again, Big E, similar, probably height to you, but a big dude and
Yeah,
very strong dude, and ended up fracturing his neck in that match. He hasn't actually wrestled since, and I think he might have fully retired now. But what's your memories of that match? And again, nobody's fault. It's kind of how wrestling goes. But how have you been since then?
I bet that's been probably the biggest sticking point in my career because you get everyone jumping on the negative bandwagon and stuff, even people in the company and stuff. It's been terrible. But uh, just going back to that day, I remember it was we were trying to get a meeting with Vince to talk about this group, and where we were going and stuff, and everyone was kind of like jumping in front because obviously you had like Ronda Rousey and Brock Lesnar and people like that who were jumping in front of us. And it's like, okay, yeah, well, priorities. We ended up getting in with him and we had a chat and what have you. But then by the time we came out, it was like 20 minutes till the match. So we had to throw this match together. And they said, well, we need something on the outside to put Big E down. And Big E knew I'd worked him before. I knew that through overhead belly to bellies. He goes, belly to belly. I went, yeah, sweet. Yeah, I've done them 1,000 times. So we get there and I hooked him and he just fell off. And then as I threw him, I was like, oh, something's not right there. Like we both zigged when we should have zagged or whatever. And it just happened how it happened. But I'm just glad that he's okay, and he's really happy now. He's happy with his life and stuff. So I'm chuffed that he got engaged and stuff, and he's doing really well. He's still in a job, and he's a great guy. He's a great human being. But I took a lot of flack for that. I had death threats to my house and stuff, and all sorts of stuff. It still happens. Being called a racist and stuff, and it affected me. It affected my career. Like even how the fans would react, it was like just couldn't get my head above the precipice,
Mm.
or the precipice, whatever you call it. So that affected that affected my career massively, and I think it was one of the big things that one affected my confidence, and two took me a while to shake it, and then it was just how I was perceived because in the wrestling business, perception is reality.
Mm.
So if you're perceived a certain way, whether you're perceived as dangerous or perceived as clumsy, that unfortunately is the reality, and I think some of the top brass held that against me a little bit. But again, it is what it is. Learn to roll with the punches.
Not only a devastating accident for Big E, but not only a month later, mate, you were wrestling at WrestleMania, and not on the pre-show, not on the day before. You were actually on the main show, WrestleMania 38, 65,500 fans in Dallas, Texas. Just I keep talking about pinch yourself moments, but what's that whole week like when you know that you're going to be living a dream there?
Mental because they fly into the town like a week earlier and it's like a week long. It's like WrestleMania takes over the city, so
Hmm.
you've got media appearances. You're doing all sorts, photo shoots, media appearances, whatever you might be doing. You just back to back busy. Um, and funny thing about that match is that we were supposed to be on the first day because obviously they've spread WrestleMania over 2 days now. We were supposed to be on the first day, but the match ended up getting canned because someone went long on the first show. So I'm like, oh man, that's a nightmare. And then Vince said apparently the word was that he felt bad. So he said, ask the boys if they can get the match done in 3 minutes. And I went, well, one of the producers was like saying, no, don't worry about it. We'll just do it on SmackDown. I'm like, no. I said, I'll do it in 60 seconds. I want to wrestle at WrestleMania. So we just went out there and did the thing in 3 minutes. And it was quick, it was fast. I'm walking through Gorilla, there's Stone Cold, there's Undertaker there. Gorilla is where we obviously go through towards the curtain and then go down the ramp.
Mm.
There's Stone Cold there holding his knee braces because he was about to wrestle Kevin Owens in the main event. There's Taker, everyone's watching. So it was definitely a bucket list. My wife had flew in, to watch. She was front row. So yeah, there's not many people. I think I'm proud of the fact that I'm the only person from West Yorkshire or Yorkshire to wrestle at a WrestleMania,
Yeah.
and I'm definitely the only professional rugby league player turned wrestler to wrestle at WrestleMania and be in a Royal Rumble. So at least I've got something to hang my hat on there from that period of time.
That was my next question, mate. Obviously, WrestleMania is it's like the FA Cup and the Olympics all roll into one. But
Oh,
you
yeah.
did Royal Rumble as well, and now I
Yeah.
remember Royal Rumble from the watching days. That's something special.
Yeah, and I wasn't even supposed to be in that either. I remember turning up there, and something had happened to change something. And about 2 hours before we were due to go out, it went, "Oh, by the way, you're going in at number 5." I went, "Oh, okay." But you go to the obviously talk to the boys and stuff and think, okay, like I'm coming in here, what we're doing. And I think I got in there and I did a bit of a thing with the AJ Styles and which is again, AJ is one of the best,
Mm.
if not the best. So yeah, another kind of bucket list moment. I really wanted to be in there when Brock were in.
Yeah.
I said I'd love to let him suplex me all over. I said, come on, just throw me around. But um, that weren't to be. So, but irrespective of that, it was a great experience.
And what's
Yeah.
Brock Lesnar like? Have you got to know him?
Not personally, but I've said hello and stuff, and he always liked our like the trio of me, Sheamus, and Butch, and he'd always like laugh and stuff. We'd always like make him laugh and stuff. So I think he appreciated that, and I think he was a big fan of Peaky Blinders, and we had that kind of Peaky Blinder
Yeah.
vibe going with the flat caps and the trench coats. So
Mm.
I think he liked it. But no, he's just he keeps himself to himself, really.
Yeah, he comes across as a quiet fella, doesn't he? And what's it like backstage? It's things we don't see on television. So, is there any tension? Are you all mates together? Is there anybody you didn't get on with?
I mean, I pretty much just keep myself to myself. There's obviously it's like in any work environment. There's guys that you get drawn towards, and there's guys that you don't really have a
Mm.
lot in common with.
Yeah.
What there is there's a lot of politics and people vying for positions and stuff,
Mm.
and I'm not into that. Like I'm not going to go behind someone's back and say that should be me or whatever. It's just you'd have people waiting outside Vince's office to go and politic and stuff, and that's not me. And maybe that's a detriment to me. Maybe that's why I didn't do as well as I should have done because I wasn't willing to do that. But I'm like, I can't sleep myself at night if I'm taking someone else's spot. But overall, it's pretty underwhelming. You get there at like 1 p.m. You say a show starts at 8. You get there at 1. You've been to the gym that morning. You'll get to the arena, dump your bags, go to catering, have about 15 cups of coffee because you're knackered.
Mhm.
Then just mill about during the day. The rehearsals probably start at like 2:30, so we'll go down to the ring and see what's going on for the day. And once you get your assignment and what you're going to do, you speak to the boys, you hang around, and you just walk around the arena, maybe go back to catering again, have another belly full, and wait until it's time to warm up, and then you put your gear on, warm up, and out you go. Do you think?
Apart from the obvious, what's the difference between being a goodie and a baddie? You call it heel in the wrestling profession, but what's the dynamics of a goodie and a baddie?
So like it's always easier being a heel, and I enjoy being a heel. It's always easier to make people hate you than what it is to make people like you.
Mm.
And I was never one of these people that come out and be like, smack like you like Cody Rhodes was like he's a really white meat babyface. He's great at it, he's like, but um I always enjoyed I've never really been a babyface. Never really a little bit in NXT, but I always enjoyed and always wanted to be to be a bad guy. And it's that dynamic you always need it's a shame now because everyone wants to be cool. Like whether you're traditionally a bad guy, they didn't really sell any merchandise. They didn't sign autographs. They didn't because they wanted to be hated and they wanted to get heat, right? And it would be the good guys that would sign all the autographs, get all the merch. The girls would love him. The guys would want to be him. And you'd need that dynamic of like a bad guy and a good guy, and what's gonna prevail? Is it good versus evil? It's the age old story. Um, but now everyone wants to be cool. You've got heels that want to be cheered, and it's like I was like, I don't want to be cheered. I want people to absolutely hate me guts. You know? So that's the little dynamic there.
Yeah, and I'm always fascinated by what was it like when you got your first action figure, or when you were in the first WWE 2K game? Again, can say it all day about pinching yourself moments, but to hold a little mini Ridge Holland must be incredible.
Yeah, it was weird, and it's funny because they send you a box, so I was giving them out to like a couple of kids in my neighborhood and stuff like that, and I've kept one just for keepsakes and stuff, and I've given one to my sons and stuff, and but yeah, it was you get scanned for it and stuff, and it was weird because when I got it, I'm looking at him, I'm like, they've made me boz-eyed, and I'm looking at the figure, and I'm boz-eyed, and I've got like my teeth are all funny, I'm like, well, they've done me a bit dirty there. But no, yeah, it's like it's me in it. It's like you never expected to get an action figure made out here, or be in a video game. I think the only time I was ever in a video game before was when they had that was it Rugby League Live or something that they made
Yeah.
back in the day, and I was like, it was just like a and just an avatar with my name on. But Yeah, no, it's all good. It's just definitely something to, you know, be grateful for.
Have you beaten like The Rock on WD2K as yourself yet?
So I'm not a big gamer. Like obviously I like even my kids, they don't have like they've got a Switch and stuff, but they'll watch like old like YouTube videos of me wrestling and stuff. So that's the only thing that they'll do is like, oh Dad, did you wrestle so and so? Did you wrestle so and so? Have you wrestled Brock Lesnar? Have you wrestled this? I'm like, oh, I've wrestled Roman and stuff, and but I've never wrestled Brock. So
Mm.
it's cool that they're old enough because I've got a daughter who's 8 and I've got identical twin boys that have turned 5 next week.
Wow.
So they're just getting into it now. So that's fun watching them enjoy it, you know. So
And
it's
and
all
that 2022 to 2023 was absolutely, you were on the rise there. We mentioned the Rumble, WrestleMania. You were challenging for titles. You were in the Brawling Brutes with, like you say, Sheamus and Butch. But what stands out for me, mate, Boxing Day 2022, Madison Square Garden, packed house. They do these Christmas shows every year, don't they? Around that time, and especially at Madison Square Garden. One day you wake up and you're playing Workington away, and then suddenly you're at Madison Square Garden fighting for the tag team championships. Just
yeah.
how can you possibly believe it?
Yeah, it's mental, and everyone always if you're a wrestler, you always want to wrestle at Madison Square Garden. You know, it's the world's most famous arena. So even just been, and you guys will understand this. Been from West Yorkshire, where not much goes on. We're just in our little bubble, and then all of a sudden you get dropped off, and it's like the Sting song. I'm an alien. I'm an alien in New York. You know what I mean? Whatever it is. So that's what I felt like. I was in New York, and it's kind of intimidating because I'm like, tons of people, and I'm like. I don't know where to go. I don't know what to do. And then you find your way to arena and you get there and it's like, oh, it's pretty cool. And down the corridors, they have all the pictures of people that have performed there and stuff. And yeah, it's definitely a moment there that'll stick with me. That and the WrestleMania moment. And then even wrestling for the tag team championship in Saudi Arabia, I traveled to Saudi and wrestled Usos in Saudi and yeah, we've done, I've done some cool things, when you look back. It's been as hard as it's been and the injuries and you feel that you did as well as you could have done. You look back and you've just got to be grateful for what you've actually been able to do, and
Mm.
that's what I try and look at things now, however bad things have got or whatever, or how I felt, I always try and now coming through it all, just look back with a little bit of gratitude that I managed to get done it because not a lot of people get the opportunity.
Yeah. And after that time, you ended up going back to NXT and spent a little bit more time in NXT and Evolve. Did you ever see that as a demotion, or was it just a chance to kind of repackage yourself and change things up?
So it was my idea to go back down to NXT because I could feel that like after the Big E thing and how things were shaping up, like I just felt that it didn't feel right. And I'd had a word from certain people that I wasn't in favour and I was feeling like I was a bit stale. And I thought, well, it's either sit in catering and wait to get sacked or take a couple of steps backwards to try and go 5 steps forward.
Mm.
So I said, look, can I go back down to NXT and kind of for a refresh, just kind of like a character rebrand or a refresh? And then I went down there and like it just didn't happen again. Like it fits and starts. I was on a really good run as a heel, and then it kind of just stopped using me. I thought I was the best heel in NXT. Getting the most reactions, the most heat, and it's weird. Like the business is so weird, and it messes with your mind. But and then they stopped using me, and then I found myself in Evolve, and I thought, well, again, backs against the wall. So then I thought, you know what, I've never really done the rugby character. I've never really, so I thought, you know what? So my dad would have Bradford Northern fan, right? And they were called the Steam Pigs.
Yeah, no,
But
I knew you were going to say that.
so I'm like, oh, well, that's pretty cool, that. And it's not been done before. I'll run with it. And people are going to laugh at it, but they always do when it's different. When something's different, they laugh at it until it becomes the norm, right? So I thought, I'll give it a go. So I started taping my head and taping my hands like I used to do with rugby and stuff and changing my moveset a little bit. And a couple of people were like, "Hey, it's pretty cool this," but it never got past Evolve. It never got back onto NXT TV or main roster TV where more people could see it. So it kind of floundered a little bit.
Mm.
Uh, but again, I'm glad I tried it. It's one of those things. I might bring it back. You never know.
It's hard to explain it to anyone who doesn't know wrestling or this type of life, but you're almost performing almost to an audience of one, aren't you? To be fair, I guess the head guy, but also it depends on if the crowd react to it. It depends if the guys in the ring like you and feel as though you're safe. It's not, I go to work and all I have to do is focus on my job. If I'm doing a good, safe job and hitting my targets and whatnot, I'm fine. But you can do all that. But if
Yeah.
things don't go your way, or if someone wakes up on the wrong side of the bed, you can have a really bad week or a bad month, can't you? It's weird.
Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how good you are. It doesn't matter how good you are at talking. It doesn't matter what you look like. It doesn't matter how skilled you are. The WWE can make a star out of anybody. And like I said before, perception is reality. So if you're packaged and they perceive you as a star and they present you as a star, the audience will therefore take you as a star. And then there's ways that they can, smooth over the things that you're not good at, but then accentuate your strengths and stuff. So they can make anybody a star.
Mm.
It's just a matter of someone going, it's like that. But you remember National Lottery? It could be you. It's kind of like that. You get picked and chosen, and it's just the way it is, and you've just got to try and muddle through and do your best.
And then, again, I've followed your career, even though you don't know who I am, but to a T, just because I know you're from my area. It was a real crap way to end your WWE career last year when you ended up getting that injury in the ring, and then suddenly, rumors started circulating that your contract was coming up, and then suddenly you were out on your ass a little bit. What happened there?
So obviously WWE and TNA have got this working relationship, and I was doing the stuff in Evolve, and then they said, "Oh, do you want to go to TNA?" And I thought, "Hell, yeah, I'll go to TNA. I'll wrestle some new people and some more experienced people." So I went there, had a really good match with Mike Santana, and then I was due to wrestle Moose the day after,
Mm.
and that's when I hurt my foot. And I still think that if I hadn't got hurt, I'd probably still be with the company. I just think it was the last straw of like this kid's been hurt a lot. Um, and then I had to the surgery, and then I took the family away to a resort in Orlando. Just my mum came over so I could have surgery. And then after surgery, we took the family away, and we just got there, and the kids were getting ready to go to the pool, and I got a phone call, and they went, "Just letting you know, we're not renewing your contract." Just as a matter of fact, as that. I went, "But I'm hurt." I said, "I, I like I can't earn money. Like I can't work for another 7 months. Like my main source of income is gone." They went, "Yeah." I said, "Normal," because I went, "Don't you normally like just wait until the person's fully healed and then say, okay, we'll part ways?" And they went, "No, no, 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 like no, click." So I was like, "Oh, okay, charming." Um, and then I just like steam, steam coming out of my ears. I've got wife, 3 kids, and nowhere to pay my mortgage. I'd already taken a pay cut to go back down to NXT, so we'd spent the savings and stuff. It was a nightmare, and so I went on. I think my contract was due to end like in 2 weeks, and I was frustrated, and I went on Twitter and I put a tweet out, absolutely rinsing the company, and they called me and sacked me on the spot, like 2 weeks before my contract had ended. So, you know, like nothing I said was wrong, was wrong, but it wasn't like uh, out of left field. I was just stating facts of what had happened and how I felt, and then from their point, I understand. I went online and I disparaged the company on a public platform. So it's kind of like, yeah, I get it, but do I regret it? Probably don't regret doing it, but I own it. What happened and how they reacted, like that was my fault, but I don't regret it.
But then had you retired? Was that it? You'd had your foot surgery. You said you had neck surgery.
Yeah.
Had you retired or?
So I got my foot done, and I've been having neck issues for a while previously. Just and I was going to get the neck looked at prior to the foot because the foot was like, okay, you need surgery. So the neck went on the back burner, and I thought, you know what? Now that one, they're not renewing my contract, I might as well get my pay for my neck done because I'm still under contract.
Mm.
So I just said, can we get my neck looked at? And it turned out I needed like a double cervical disc replacement, and that was awesome. Like as soon as I woke up, symptoms gone and everything. And then from that point, when you start messing around with your neck, I was like, oh, maybe I think I'm done. And I said to my wife, I said, I think I'm done. I think I'm retiring. I said, I can't deal with because it left such a sour taste in my mouth. And with the stuff with Big E and everything, I was like, I just want to go away. I just want to go away. Um, and I felt that way until probably like maybe a month ago, and I was started getting the itch again, and my body started feeling really good. Back in the gym, back lifting, back doing my cardio. Neck feels great. Foot's on the mend. So I'm like, I've got something to prove here, if not to anyone else, to myself. So I'm like, okay, I think I'll give this another dig.
And where do you go? Are there other companies over there? Where if you want to have another dig, what's the next
So
plan?
next thing is you just go back on the independent scene. You
Yeah.
start taking bookings, and then obviously there's guys like TNA and AEW. If you generate a bit of a buzz on the independent scene, there's opportunities out there. And I've got, you know, a lot of the time it's not what you know, it's who you know. And I'm fortunate enough that I've made some good relationships in the
Yeah, yeah.
business. So maybe I'll have to call in a favour here and there, see if I can get my foot in the door somewhere. But we'll see. Yeah,
Are you settled in America? You're sort of there for life. And obviously your kids are grown up Americans and
yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, me and my wife are both green card holders now. Both my
yeah.
boys, they're citizens. My daughter's got a green card, but she's like it's all she's known since she was 8 months old. The kids are in school, so yeah, I hear like horror stories about how UK is and stuff now, and things are a bit iffy and stuff. So it's like my dad always says to me, "Don't come back here. Whatever you do, don't come back here."
Have they got
So
American accents?
like, oh yeah, yeah. But like it's weird because my in-laws are in town at the minute, my wife's parents, and when my kids spend a bit of time with people from home, they kind of, well, my daughter does, she flips back into like Yorkshire. So it'd be like, Dad, look, there's a boat. You know what I mean? Like it's like, so she'll have little words. But yeah, it's I think we're here for the long term. I'm actually going hoping to get back to the UK in end of June, see my mates, because I've had same mates for like since I was in high school. So it'd be nice to get back and have a pint and stuff and go visit some of my old haunts and stuff. And then I think Keegan's coming over here. He's staying with me in October later this year. Then I think we're off probably maybe go to Vegas, I think.
You need to come
So
to a Trinity game, mate, then if you come back.
I would do, yeah. I want to go. I always said I want to go, especially I want to go back to Mount Pleasant and see, go back there and watch a game and stuff. But I'll call up and watch a Trinity game for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, we look after the past players as well. So keep in contact with Jamie, mate. And if you come over, we'll sort you out.
Oh, we'll do. Yeah,
But
definitely take
Trinity
some.
have got three home games in June, so you can easily
Yeah.
get to one of those.
There we go. It's a stone's throw. Stone's
Mm.
throw. Aye.
And like you mentioned, obviously America's the number one. The amount of wrestling there, the wrestling scene is booming. But it's things like Mexico, it's massive in Mexico, massive in Japan. Especially they call them gaijins, don't they? Any foreign wrestler going to New Japan or All Japan or Pro Wrestling Noah, whatever you want to talk, is massive. Especially a tough heel Englishman. Is that ever in your mind that you'd go over to Japan?
I'd jump at the chance. I'd always want to go wrestle in Japan. I think just the style there would suit me a little bit better.
Hmm.
Yeah, I'd love to go. I'd love to jump at the chance. And even in Europe, there's Indian promotions now. I just got contacted the other day by a promotion in Belgium. They wanted to bring me in, so I'm like, there's work out there. It's just a matter of drumming up enough interest and letting people know that you're ready to go. But I don't want to give away too much too soon because I want to make an announcement when
Yeah.
I fully feel like I'm back to full 100%.
Would it be under Luke Menzies? I'm guessing you can't use Ridge Holland.
No, I can't use that. I was like, oh, do I need to come up with a new name? And I said, I can't be bothered. I'm just going to be myself. Just be
Mm.
a grumpy Yorkshireman.
Yeah.
You
Steam
know,
Pig. Definitely keep Steam Pig though. I like the Steam
Dean
Pig.
Pig. Dean Pig, yeah. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. But yeah, I'm just gonna just be myself. I'm not like it's more authentic that way, I think.
Yeah. I mean, Luke, we obviously we're Wakefield Trinity by name and Heritage Podcast by nature, but I think in terms of rugby league heritage and rugby league history, I don't think there's many, if any, people who've had such a varied career in life like you, going from, like Dad said, he summed it up perfectly, from Liverpool to WrestleMania, and people can think what they want about pro wrestling, but it's a multi-billion-dollar industry. One of the, like a Disney, like a Marvel, it's something like that. Professional wrestling, WWE, and the fact that you've reached the pinnacle, you've fought at WrestleMania and at Royal Rumble, you've been on the main roster and employed by the company for 7, 8 years. and you're still going to give it a go, plus off the back of a decade-long rugby league career, mate. I think it's something to be incredibly proud of, and you're still going as well. So, in my opinion, I feel like rugby league and Super League and the whole sport should have more focus on this. I don't know if you've had any touch with Super League or anything, but it's a massive thing.
Yeah, I mean, I tried every time I would post a social media thing, I'd tag the Super League, I'd tag them in, but they just never wanted to be. I wanted to. My initial thing was I wanted to be like an ambassador for
Mm,
the sport and have a pathway for players to possibly make the same transition that I did.
mm,
But it never got any traction. I don't think there was any interest there, and I think that there's a lot of ru- growing up in rugby league, and you guys know the amount of personalities that there is in rugby. I think that we're probably missing a trick
yeah.
by not letting these boys have a crack at professional wrestling. If they just
Mm,
obviously if they leave the preconceived ideas of what they think it is at the door, I think there'll be a few fellas that can probably make the transition. And I'd love to be that ambassador. I would love to be that. Obviously I'm not with the company now, but if ever there was a time that I was back in the company in WWE, I would love to be an ambassador for one, the company, and two, rugby league in general or the Super League. I got invited to Vegas by LKR just for the recent time they were there, but unfortunately I couldn't make it just for family and stuff like that. I just couldn't make it. Um, but it's things like that that I'd love to do. I'd love to do more of,
mm.
just to raise awareness a little bit and get some of the boys. There is life after rugby.
The coverage that you and Keegan have got, just two lads from Batley, it's incredible, in it? Your social media following and the things you've both done. Keegan's flying as well in his
Yeah.
field and his life. So should be. Are you proud of yourself? Are you proud of what you've done?
Oh man, I never really like give me some pats on the back, but I am. I am. I'm always search. I'm never satisfied,
Hmm.
and I never really take the time to sit and enjoy it. So maybe that's the thing that I need to do is just take stock and sit back and say, look, you've done all right for yourself, lad. You know what I mean? Um, but yeah, I think I've done all right. I think there's still plenty in the tank though, as far as like what I can achieve. Just a lad, trying to put a little town from West Yorkshire on the map, Then again, like you mentioned, Keegan, we've been best mates since he was 10 year old, and he came over to Orlando like last year, and we sat went out for some food, and we sat, and he said, "Who'd have thought it?" Growing up on a council estate, we're both sat here in Orlando, him doing what he's doing, I'm doing what I'm doing. So no, it's it's something nice to look back on and appreciate.
Plenty more to come, mate. Luke Menzies, Ridge Holland, the Steam Pig, whatever you want to call yourself. Thank you very much for coming on our podcast. And again, if you continue and keep doing big things, you got to come back and share more stories as well.
Oh, of course I will do. I'll keep in touch, guys. Yeah, it's been a pleasure. It's been a pleasure.
Superb. Thank you, everybody, for listening and watching episode 266 of the Wakefield Trinity Heritage Podcast. You can find us on podcasting platforms worldwide and on our YouTube channel as well. Massive thank you to my co host, Lee Robinson. Even bigger thank you to Luke Menzies, Ridge Holland, the Steam Pig, ex WWE superstar himself. I've been Jamie Robinson, and we will catch you all down the road.